Guys, I know what you're thinking. A book review? Who is she? A scholar? The answer would be yes. No, the truth is out. I am a book nerd, and fictional vampire forbidden romance just so happens to be my guiltiest of pleasures. Welcome back to my channel. I know this is not my typical content, but I read Midnight Sun a few weeks ago. I finished it and I've just had a lot of thoughts about it since, and I just wanted to share them with anybody who cares to listen. When I say I have quite literally waited 10 years for this moment, I'm not joking you. So Midnight Sun, if you for some reason are watching this and do not know, is Twilight from Edward's point of view. Guys, I know that everybody tries to say that like they were the first person on a trend, or they thought something was cool before like other people thought it was cool. I get that, but like when I tell you that I was into Twilight before people even kind of slightly started to know about the existence of Twilight, like I'm not joking. Like I was reading Twilight honestly when I was far too young to be reading Twilight. I was so young that like when I got to Eclipse, I like brought it into my mom's room in the middle of the night and was like, I think this is maybe too inappropriate. Like I don't know if I should be reading this. Like, can you read it for me? Like, what kind of freaking dork does that? Like that's how young I was. The first movie came out whenever I was in 6th grade. So I was probably like 7 or 8 reading these books, which, oh good God. Like I don't even know what I was doing, but I was obsessed. I was a total book nerd. I still am, but like elementary school especially, I just was forever reading. And if I got good grades, like when we got our report cards, my parents would give me $5 for every A and $1 for every B. After we would get our report cards, my mom would bring me to this little bookstore in town. It was owned by an old lady and she had a bunch of dogs that would run around inside of it. So I would go there and I would like get a new book with my money, and the lady like started to recognize me after I'd been a couple times, and she knew the kind of stuff I liked. I was always into like the kind of sci-fi fantasy sort of stuff. And she like came up to me and was like, hey, you know, like I just got this new book in, I think you might like it. It's about something, I think it's about a girl that falls in love with like a vampire and like an ogre or something. Like she did not even know what it was about. She knew it had something to do with vampires, but I was like, okay. Like it was the cover with the Twilight with the little apple. I was just like, I'm intrigued. Like I didn't know what to get that day. So I just got Twilight, brought it home, and I remember reading it and I was hooked. I did not put that thing down. I read it straight through without even stopping. Anyways, I was obsessed with Twilight, and then like 2-3 years later, all of a sudden people like show up to 6th grade wearing their I Heart Boys Who Sparkle shirts. It was, of course, I was so like, oh my God, I've been into like, I was just like, I was way too cool to be into the movie, because I was like, I'm all about the books. Like, what is this movie? And then I saw Robert Pattinson and I changed my mind really quickly, but either way, all of this to say, I was a massive fan of Twilight. I read it probably 5 times over. It was my favorite series forever. I mean, I obviously am like a huge Harry Potter fan, but like Twilight just hits different. Obviously, like reading it now, it's funny, which I'll get into that. But yes, Stephenie Meyer for the longest time has talked about, after she finished the series, she wanted to come out with Twilight from Edward's point of view. Literally forever. I was like waiting for this. We thought it was coming. We thought it was gonna come like right after Breaking Dawn was out, and it just never did. And then the 10-year anniversary of Twilight rolled around and it wasn't ready yet. She wasn't ready to release it. Something about it was really hard for her to write apparently. So she ended up releasing this other like kind of strange book I did not love. It was literally Twilight except all the I can't even speak. All of the gender roles were reversed. So yeah, it was like Edward was a girl, Bella was a boy, like every gender role was reversed, but it was still the same story. It was not my cup of tea, to be honest. Like I didn't even finish it because I was just like, this is literally the same story, but it like it doesn't make a huge difference to me that it's flipped. Like I don't know, I was just not obsessed with it, but I get that like she wanted to give us something for the 10-year, whatever. Long story short, I finally realized that this was coming out from TikTok of all places. I'm like, Stephanie, you had, like, I should have been on like the VIP email list. I don't know. Ordered it on Amazon immediately, read it. So now I just want to talk about it. That was the longest intro for no reason, but yes. I'm assuming if you're watching this that you have already read it, but if you have not, I will kind of just generally talk about my thoughts on the book and like what it's kind of about, and then I'll give like a spoiler alert warning. You're probably like, how could it even be a spoiler alert? It's literally Twilight, but you'd be surprised how different it is. Even though it is a story we already know, having it from Edward's perspective makes it very different. So I just want to say right off the bat, when it comes to this book, if you are a person that is like very emotionally attached to Edward, which I, from the beginning, was Team Edward, always, through and through. If you don't want your opinion to, if you don't want to have the opportunity for your opinion of him to be changed, you might not want to venture to read this book, because seeing it from his perspective is so different. You really don't realize when you're reading Twilight how much time in the beginning, especially of the story, that Edward and Bella are like not together. Like a lot of it in the beginning is like, you know, her seeing him from afar, whenever he like has to leave school for 2 weeks after the first time that she walks into the classroom. I mean, they're apart a lot of the time. So it's really interesting that like so much of this book is just like Bella's honestly not present. Like kind of the first half of it, you barely even get to like see her or like converse with her. We know, because we read the story, that when Bella obviously walks into the classroom the first time, Edward smells her and she, this is the most ridiculous thing to be talking about on my YouTube channel. Is it though? Anyways, whatever. He wants to instantly kill her. She's like the most delectable human he has ever smelled. We know that, but it's obviously really different when you're actually reading it from his perspective. Like he wants to rip her throat out. He has to leave. His whole like life is being questioned in his mind. So it is cool that we get to see his perspective. Like whenever he does leave, we get to see where he goes for those 2 weeks. We get to see the kind of internal struggle we have with him. But one thing that's also weird about that is we know that Edward watched Bella sleep. Like that's something that was discussed, but this book shows you how like early on he was like obsessed with her. It's kind of honestly a little bit really creepy and serial killer like. Literally from the moment he smells her, he's like, I guess this is spoiler alert, I don't know, this is all over the place. I should have made a plan of action for this, but I'm just talking. Yeah, pretty much from the moment he smells her, he just follows her everywhere. Like stays outside of her house. The second she goes to sleep, he sneaks in her room and watches her sleep, like every night. All of school, he is sitting in his classroom, and this is cool because we get to see what it's like for him to read minds. You get to hear other people's thoughts in the book, and it's one thing that I didn't realize is, of course, because he can read people's minds, he can also kind of like see through their minds. So all day he's watching Bella through other people's eyes, just following her throughout the whole day. I mean, it's cool and it's interesting, but it's also like, oh my goodness. Also the fact that they have had all of like 1.5 conversations, and he admits to himself that he's in love with her, that he loves her. Like they literally spoke one time in his biology class after the first time they were in his biology class, and he was thinking about ripping her throat out. So I'm just like, you're in love with her. Like it just wasn't what I expected. Yeah, it really changes the like dynamic, because whenever it's from like Bella's perspective, like you just don't know, like Edward's just like mysterious, and it's almost like you almost feel like she had to like reel him in when you're reading Twilight. But in this book it's like, oh no, like she was his. Like they were gonna be together, or he was gonna kill her. Like that's kind of what it seemed like. Another cool thing with the whole perspective of getting to like read his mind is we get to learn a lot more about Alice and her abilities in this book. because Edward can read minds, every time she sees a vision, he essentially, when he's around her, he can also see the future. Alice plays a huge role in this book. They're forever like communicating with each other, and he can see every time she has a vision, he sees it. So that was really cool that you got to see like the first day that Bella came to school, she already was starting to like see Bella as a vampire and see their future. So it is crazy to know that so early on, he already knew like where their future was headed. That's just such an interesting thing to think about, right? Like, it's that concept of like, if you knew the future, would it cause you to act differently? Would it cause you to like change your choices? It's just a very interesting concept. I will just say in general about the book, I did like it. It was interesting, but at the same time, it is pretty slow. It is a very slow build-up. It gives you a lot of kind of backstory that we didn't know, which is cool, but also some of it is kind of like, I don't want to say boring. We get a lot more information in this book on like the backstory of like Carlisle and the Volturi, and more about like how Edward was created or whatever. But if you look, like, this is the thickest book in the series. I have it on my bookshelf next to all of them. Like, Twilight is half of the size, so it does go a little bit slow. There is a lot of just Edward like trying to reason with himself. I don't know, I think my favorite part about it honestly was the way we got to see Bella from a different point of view. Obviously in like Twilight, we see her and she's like enamored by Edward and freaking out over him, and we know, because he tells us in the book, that he can't read her mind and she's the only person whose mind he can't read. But now we get to see that from Edward's perspective, see how like frustrating and also like exciting and enamoring it is that he can't tell what she's thinking, and the way that she's so, he only has her facial expressions to go off of, and she's very like quiet and shy, and my dog is insisting on chewing her bone 5 inches away from me. Could you not? You're interrupting my book review. Anyways, the best part of this book for me was the end. Once Bella like goes off on her own to like head off the tracker because she thinks that he has taken her mom, getting to see Edward's like inner torment of that, the fact that he thinks he can lose her, and getting to see them like rushing to rescue her, and the way that Alice like plans it all out to cover up what actually happened, the way that they have to like set the whole scene of the hotel, making it look like she fell down the stairs. You get to see a really interesting like 5 pages where it's all Alice like seeing the future and changing one thing and seeing how that affects the future, and that I found fascinating. I'm like, give me a whole book on Alice. Like, she is just the queen of this story. I don't know how the Cullens would have functioned without her, and I don't think we got to see that in the regular Twilight books. Obviously she was important, but seeing it through Edward's eyes, who gets to actually like be in her mind, was a really cool thing. One thing though that also kind of frustrated me about this book was like, we got to know in this, Edward knew he was gonna leave. They made it seem like he made the decision after like Jasper attacked Bella and Blue Moon, oh my god, New Moon. Thinking about alcohol, that means it's been a long day. But yeah, Edward literally, like when she's in the hospital, has already made the decision that he's gonna leave her. And she's like begging him not to, and he promises he won't, but he already knows that he's going to. Which, I'm like, that's kind of crappy of you, dude. Like, you come into this chick's life for no good reason. Selfishly, you leave, but decide to come back just because you want her, can't stop thinking about her, I don't know. Basically like, make her fall in love with you, make it so that she can't be without you, and then the second like you actually have her, you're like, peace out, I don't care, like, I need to go. That's just kind of crappy to me. I don't know, like, it made me a little sad by the end of the book, because especially the way it ended, like, it really ended with them at prom and him just knowing like, I have to leave her. And it made me kind of like not like Edward as much, which is sad. I mean, whatever, I still love him, still team Edward, all that. We know how the story ends, it's beautiful. But yeah, this is the most disorganized, rambly video I've ever made. Like I said, I just kind of wanted to word vomit. Nobody I know like cares about this or has read it or is into Twilight. Obviously this was like 12 years ago. Nobody cares anymore. But yeah, I just wanted to get all these thoughts out. I don't know if any of it made any sense. Overall, the book was good. If you were a Twilight fan, I would say go ahead and read it. But I don't know. It's definitely an interesting perspective. Kind of makes me sad because I kind of want it all from this perspective now, just because it sucks that it ends here. I think that it would be really, really cool to see it like eclipsed from his perspective. Oh my god, Breaking Dawn from his perspective, which I feel like, okay, Breaking Dawn, I know that some of the perspective is from Jacob's point of view. Why am I blanking? We don't see, do we see Edward's point of view in that? It has literally been like 8 years since I read that book, so correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I would love to see more from his perspective. I highly doubt that's gonna happen. Stephanie Meyer made this whole like note in the back of the book being like, this book was my nemesis for the last 12 years. It's finally done, here it is. I feel like she's done. She's gotta be done because it was a lot. But yeah, so I would give it like a 7 out of 10. Definitely a blast from the past. Kind of made me want to reread just the Twilight so that I can again compare the perspectives, because so much of Bella is just missing from this book, which is cool, but just different. So I don't even know if this is gonna get uploaded because I feel like it was an absolute shit show. But if you made it this far, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Midnight Sun. And if you think I should continue to review books on here, I already know the answer is gonna be no, because this was a lot. Anyways, thank you for watching. I will see you guys very soon. Okay, bye.